Creo Parametric 4.0, Lesson 4. In this lesson, we're going to create a metric part. So the first thing we always do is select our working directory, whichever you choose. And we're going to start a new part. And it's a clamp. We're going to use the default template. By checking that, we get our datum planes. And what we want to do is set it up like we always do. Turn on your datum tags and turn on everything in your model filters for your model tree. And then we're going to go and do some setup. So we have prep here. Prepare in model properties. And we're going to start off with the material. And these are the ones pre-Creo 4, and this is the new information that's there, the new options for materials. We're going to go into Legacy and just simply select the steel. And the book has some other options in that you can go through those steps. Make sure you do everything you can to learn some of the menus that are here, just so that you know that they're available. And the next thing we want to do is set our units, and we're going to set them at millimeters, and we click set. And this sometimes confuses people. Very seldom you will ever use the first one. It's just best to always click the second one. You normally just make a mistake in not selecting the units, and it's really 1:1, 1 millimeter to 1 inch. So that's the conversion. You don't want to convert. You want to just use the same whole number. So, okay, close, and close. Now, go over to model here. And we could go to tools first and do model information. And you'll see that this has the material and the units provided now. I'm going to close that window. Other thing is, let's take a look at some of our options here. In the environment, we'll leave everything the same. In the sketcher, we're going to maybe make some changes. And let's see. We want to go down, and you may want to reduce this to 0 because we're using millimeters. And we're going to turn on the snap and the grid. I normally don't bother to do this anymore, but some people still like it. It only works well in the first few features that you do. And that's pretty much anything we want to do. We don't want to make too many changes in here. We may come back and change this to isometric, but not right now. So click OK. Click No. You don't want to save that to your config file. So Model tab, and we're going to work on the front view, front datum plane. That actually turns into the front view if you display the model in a drawing. You import it. So we're going to select Extrude as always, and we will go to our 2D in this case, and let's put in a center line. You'll notice I always pull my cursor off the last pick so that you can see it rubber banding. When I hit middle mouse button, then it ends that particular command. You can see right here we have a center line, but be careful because if I hit my right mouse button here, underneath is a line. So that's the edge also of my datum planes. Here there's not a center line. So what we're going to do is just create this shape. And one of the things you want to do is just get used to not making unwanted assumptions here. So if I go up, let's say, 3 blocks, I don't want to go over 3 because it'll make those equal, and I'll have to change it. So let's just go over 2 blocks. Grid spaces. And here we're going to go up 4. And we have 5 over, and then we have 5 more. Now, normally I don't do it this precise. Later you'll see you can fix or change anything you wish. 2 over, 3 down, and all the way over, and middle mouse button a couple of times, and you'll see it's completed. Now, there's the dimensioning scheme here is not correct. These are not the dimensioning, the values are not correct, but we don't care about that. We care about the scheme itself. So right mouse button, dimension, and I'm going to click the bottom line and then middle mouse button. Click the top line, middle mouse button. Um, I can go and move this dimension, or I can just click on the line and put the dimension out there. And my last one is I'm going to take a look at dimension here and a dimension here, and I really don't want those dimensions. So I want an overall dimension, a height. So let's go from line to line. Normally you do not go from point to point, line to line. And I still have this half dimension in here. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to select symmetric as a constraint, and I'm going to pick on the center line. Careful, because if you go down here and hit your right mouse button, you'll see that's not a center line. So always come up here and pick center line, line, center line. I'm sorry. Oh, I did it wrong. I was putting a diameter dimension in. Center line, point, point, and see what happens. Now it's symmetrical. And you could continue that. So for instance, center line, and let's say you wanted to do out here. Pick, pick. Now this one's going to say, hey, you don't really need that. I don't know if you noticed, but the first one I did up here, that half dimension disappeared. Here it's saying you've got enough constraints. So what do you want to get rid of? And I like the symmetric constraint, so I'm going to keep that one. I'm just going to get rid of one of the other two. And here's my part. So what I want to do is I want to have it the correct sizes. These are very large numbers right now. So I'm going to go over to pick on select or middle mouse button twice. And I'm going to window in all my dimensions. You can see they're all green. If you missed one, you can hold down your control key and pick the missed one, or just do it again. Right mouse button, and I'm going to go into the modify menu. And one of the things here, the trick is to always extend this because you don't see everything. The other trick is to make sure you pick lock scale, and then you go to one of the dimensions that you want to change. Now, in this particular project here, I'll go down a few pages. These are the dimensions we're using. So the largest number, the overall here, is this one right here, is 123. So if I click in here and I've got my lock scale on, I type in 123 and hit enter and OK. And then I change the other dimensions to the sizes I want. These are the design sizes. So we have 52 over here. I think this is 23. I might have forgot already. And this might be 52. And does it make any difference? No. I can change them in 73 and 40, so I'm way off. So 73, and this was 30, not 23. And we're missing one more. Let's see. 73, 30. 30. See, I was right at 23, so I got to read it right. But again, it wouldn't have made any difference. I can change it here, or I can change it once the feature is created. So I'm going to go and make this one 23 and enter. Now, this is how I'm going to show you that once you do this, you're inside the command, and you created your sketch, which is what we normally do with the PTC products. Okay, I'm just going to quit that one. Now, what I mean by that, though, is this section is inside the actual feature. So we're going to start again. And this time, we're going to start with a sketch. And a lot of other CAD systems do this. They have external sketches. You can have them internal or external with Creo. So I like that. I like the option of doing it. I don't like a lot of sections showing up in sketches in my model tree. So here we're going to do it externally. But remember, do what's in the book. A lot of people end up like lesson 17 or whatever, and they're making external sketches, but the book doesn't tell them to do that. And you want to follow the steps in the book. I mean, later you can do what you want, external or internal. The reason for having external ones will be apparent when we do this. So I'm going to click on Sketch. We're going to select this here, Sketch, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we did before. So we're going to put in a center line. I'll move through this a little quicker. We're going to draw some lines. So we're going to go up a couple, over 3, up 4. And again, this isn't that important to do it, but once you have this grid, you might as well use it. Middle mouse button a couple of times. Make sure I do my symmetric, pick my center line, point, point, like so. And again, if I did that again on the bottom, you'll see that it's going to say you've got too many. We'll just delete one of them. Now, what I didn't do is I didn't put in my dimensions. So I do need this dimension here. I do need this dimension here, and I've already got it. And if I wanted to, I could just pick on it and move it. So my dimensions are correct except for this one. I do need an overall dimension. So I want my height dimension. Click, click, middle mouse button, so. So if you notice what happened though, because I left this one as a weak dimension, when I put this one in, it took the one I wanted here out and kept this one. So there's a couple ways to avoid that. Number one is making them strong dimensions. In other words, making them design dimensions. Now, pretty much got everything here. Middle mouse button, free up my cursor, select everything, and I'm going to go into modify. And again, I want to make sure I lock the scale. I go to 480, the long one. I know that's 123. Okay. And middle mouse button or check to finish it. And what do I have? Well, I only have a sketch. Sketch is active, like so. And at this point, maybe I'll go in and I'll change my options for my model display and make it isometric. Looks nice that way. It's already selected here. So if I click on Extrude, however I want to get that, it'll use that sketch. Right mouse button will make it symmetric. And I think this was 70. Does it make any difference? No, we can always change it later. So check. And there's my first shape. Now, if I double click on it, I can see whether or not I have any dimensions to change. I didn't change all my dimensions. So as I recall, this one is 23, and this one is, well, I already forgot. So we have 23 and we have 52 for the height. So you can see I'm changing this while I'm in the model. Hit my left mouse button a couple of times. Let's see. Still doesn't look quite right. So let's double click on it. I need my height dimension. This one is 52, not 46. So the editing here can be done once you're done with the first feature or when inside the actual sketch. In this case, here's the sketch. And you can notice I have the sketch here and I have the external sketch up here. So Control D, there's my model. My first feature is completed. Now, what I want to do here is I want to unhide this. So I click on it, right mouse button, and unhide my sketch. And if I want to here, I could actually go change my appearances a little bit. Let's make it another color. And we could even take that color and edit it a little bit. And I'm just going to make it a little bit transparent. Just a little bit. If I want to change the color here, I can change the shading or the reflections, the highlight, close. All right, so there's my first feature, different color now. And what I want to do is I want to use this sketch here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the sketch and I'm going to go in my model tab first. I click on the sketch right mouse button, and I'm going to select the extrude. Now it says it's going to be turned into remove material, which is what I want. So I'm just going to leave that. So in other words, I did want to remove the material, but because I selected the sketch first, it did that for me. Now, you look at this and you say, well, that looks pretty much the same as before. What's going on? Well, if I click on my placement tab here, it is linked to the original sketch. So if I make anything I do here is going to also affect the first extrusion. So instead, I'm going to go unlink it. Okay. And I'm going to go into, well, I think I'll just stay right here. It's a little easier to see. Oh, harder to do, though. So I unlinked it, and I'm going to right mouse button, edit internal sketch. And you say, well, what's really going on? Well, what's going on is I can now change that sketch to anything I want. Now, one thing I forgot to do is I forgot to turn off the grid. And I personally never use this anymore. I did for years, and now I never do. It becomes actually quite annoying. So now I can pull this in to the close to the design sizes. They don't have to be exact. I can type them later. But this is a 54, 30, 13. So this is 13. This is 54. And the top here is 40 for the cut. Picked a bad color, unfortunately. I thought I was doing a good job with my color choices, but not so good. So basically what I could do, I could go over here and let's just look at hidden line. That looks a little bit better. All right, so there's my cut. And when I check here, I want this to be through all in both directions. Two sides through all. And let's go back to my shading with edges, and you can see the cut goes all the way through. Fairly simple. Middle mouse button to finish it. And while I'm here, might as well fix the color into something a little bit better. And I guess it'll be questionable whether you think that's better, but I'm trying to think of a color that's not used in certain items. Let's leave it there. You have default colors for almost everything, and you don't want your color on your model to make it difficult for you to select things or to work with the system. So we have our first feature, and then we have our cut feature. And you notice I didn't have to sketch that cut feature. It was just using the same basic shape, but with different dimensions. Now, if I double click in here, I can go check, and I can say, uh-oh, I didn't make this one correct here. 37. This is only supposed to be 30. So double click, double click. Yep, it's 30. Now, I noticed that because I've used this model for, well, I hate to say it, but since Pro Engineer 18. Yeah, 18. So that's almost 20 years. Left mouse button a couple times, it regenerates. And we have our cut. Next. This cut done, we're going to do one more cut. This cut is on both sides. See if I go down a little bit, you'll see it. It's a 20 by 20 cut. On one side here. So what I want to do is I want to choose, should I sketch on this? Should I sketch on this? Or should I sketch on the datum plane? I'm going to sketch on the datum plane because it's one of the first features way up here, and it's least apt to have any changes made to it, obviously, because it's the base or the original datum plane. But these other surfaces, edges and that, they could change during the modeling process. So I'm going to actually select that as my sketch plane for my cut. But I think before I do that, this particular time, I'm going to select the command first. Then I'm going to right mouse button, remove material, or remove material here. And then I'm going to click on placement, and it's looking for the sketch plane. I'm going to select here. Now, I don't know if you saw the pink arrow come up real quickly, but it was pointing down. I'm going to go into my sketch view, and I'm looking at the top of the model. And we've got a reference down the middle and a reference over here. So I think what I'll do is I'll just simply go grab a center rectangle, click somewhere in here. It doesn't make any difference where. Try not to put it halfway between here and here. And come over, and I'm going to stop when it becomes symmetrical. Now, what that did is it gave me one dimension instead of two. If I want two dimensions to show up, then what I should do is make sure that I have two different distances here. Use just a regular rectangle and don't make it a square. So you'll see where it is, though. It's on the bottom here. So right mouse button, I'm going to check, and it's going in the wrong direction. And I want this to go up to this surface. So right mouse button to selected, and I'm going to select this surface. And there's my cut. The arrows make a difference. Obviously, you don't want that. And middle mouse to complete. It's still selected. And you can see my selection of colors, again, is kind of off because these edges are in green, and they don't highlight very good when the model is that color. So this is still available. If I click over here, it unselects it, deselects it. And if I go up here, I'll see that the mirror tool is not available. But if this is selected, the mirror tool is available. So I click on mirror, and I click on over here, and check. And there's my, didn't preview, and there's my mirrored feature. Control D. Now, if I wanted to, I could save it, obviously. I'm not going to save mine. You'll save yours. And as you go through the models, you might save like 3 or 4 times. So every time you save, it's a different model. It's not the same model. So you've added a version to your database. So if you want to go and you want to delete old versions, you can remove all the other saves that you had at different stages. You actually can go back and open up any of those stages. So if you've saved 50 times, you have 50 models. They are different models. It's like saving photographs of yourself or clones at the ages of 2, 5, 8, 12, 30, 60 years old. Not the same person, because you have a clone of you at each stage. So that's what PTC products have always had this. And you can go back and you can open up any of those versions of the same part or model or assembly or whatever it is. But they really are different because they were saved at a certain stage and they've got an appended number to the name. All right. I think this ends it. I want to make sure I covered all the information I wanted to in this. And it looks like I did. So Control D. However you put it at the end and you save it, that's what it's going to look like when you open it. That's pretty ugly. All right. This is the end of lesson 4.